Hello, everybody. We just got back from the midnight premiere of The Hobbit.
It's 3 o'clock in the morning.
We're very tired. That's why I made the blankets.
It's Project Better Dolphin Pajama Blanket Edition.
Yeah.
Midnight review.
Anyway, I'm Peter from the
I'm
Steamworks.
Gabby, resident troll.
And I'm Chaz from Shatterblog.
And today we bring you a midnight review of The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey.
It was an unexpected journey. It was a 3-hour-long unexpected journey.
It wasn't unexpected. You went in there. You weren't like, I'm just going to sit in this seat and see what happens on this screen in front of me. Oh, look, The Hobbit! Surprise! Whee!
So we'll just be giving you kind of like what we thought of the movie, some things that we thought they could have done better, some things that we thought were amazing. And yeah.
Overall, I thought it was good. It was a good time.
Gabby is very lucky in this instance because while she's like heard Lord of the Rings in the background while we tried to watch it but failed, this is pretty much her first like sit down and watch this Lord of the Rings movie.
Yes.
And so that's very lucky for someone to do because that's just awesome. I started with the Fellowship of the Ring, obviously, and I feel like it's just like a circumstance that she got to take a part of.
Compared to the Fellowship of the Ring, I feel like The Hobbit is a better introduction, yeah.
I don't know that I agree. One thing I'd like to note is that in the intro, they make a lot of reference to the beginning of Fellowship. Frodo has a long cameo, and they really go into a little bit of detail with that. And so, you know, having only a cursory knowledge of Fellowship, Gabby probably not appreciate how fantastic that was.
I mean, I think after, like, you know, this, and she goes and watches the Fellowship of the Ring, and she's the beginning, she'll probably appreciate it sometime.
So a lot of you might have heard about the controversial use of 48 frames per second. However, we won't be covering this in this review. We saw it in the regular standard definition in 2 dimensions. So, you know, maybe keep an eye out for a 3D or IMAX review going up in the next couple of weeks. But, you know, we wanted to get this up to you guys as quickly as possible. And our local theater wasn't offering the enhanced edition, at least as a midnight.
Can I add that at our local theater, there were the strangest cosplayers?
We had a female Link who was way too big for her costume. We had a Na'vi.
It
friend.
was just a guy in a tutu.
Then we had this guy who was wearing a fez and the 4th Doctor scarf. And I held the door open for him and I said, "Here you go, Doctor." And he went on this rant about how he would not save me if I started choking, and he would laugh at me.
Yeah, he was a quality guy. I liked him.
I was wondering what was happening there.
Back to the movie. There's been a lot of talk in the reviews about overuse of comedy and making it into a kids movie. I at least didn't think that it was an issue at all. I thought that the comedy was generally pretty well timed and it was funny without detracting from the plot. I mean, the dwarves are funny. You can't get away from that.
I agree. I feel that a lot of other critics were doing like, oh, it ruins it because, you know, they made it into like a childish movie. Not that necessarily is like, you know, a kids movie, but a lot of the humor and a lot of the different scenarios that go on can be liked by children, and I don't know, I think it was interesting because for those of us who saw the 1970s Hobbit, it definitely kind of threw you back into that old cartoon while being really cool and Lord of the Rings and Peter Jackson at the same time.
I will admit, though, some of the humor was a bit childish. It was kind of, like, generally cheap, like somebody falls and it's funny kind of stuff.
I think that one important thing with that is, you know, a lot of it is the dwarves' camaraderie. Like, yeah, they mess with each other. That's what happens when you're essentially a family.
I did feel that the intro was a little bit long. It took about like an hour, maybe like a little bit over an hour to actually get started. I did think it was important though, so like it wasn't like unneeded length. It's just what there is to The Hobbit as far as information goes and things that we need to know. Definitely just is a time-consuming effort.
It was well done and very, like, appropriate.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of inherent when you break one book into 3 movies. That, I mean, obviously the beginning of the book, you're building up to the action, and so if you have a whole movie that's just the beginning of the book and the action barely even starts, they did a really good job with fitting action in, mind you, but yeah, there's only so much you can do with the first third of The Hobbit.
It's very true. Because in the book, there's not even so much action anyway, other than, like, you know, the Battle of 5 Armies, and, like, towards the end of the book, in that beginning, like Chaz was saying, there's not as much action as there is, like, towards later of the ones.
Were you guys impressed with the CGI?
Yeah, I thought the CG was really good.
So did I.
Some of the sweeping vistas, especially the beginning as, spoiler alert, Bilbo goes on an unexpected journey. As Bilbo's running out of the Shire to join the dwarves, they did a panning shot over the Shire that was equally as amazing as in The Lord of the Rings.
The only one I didn't like was towards the end where they're all standing on this cliff and it was very obviously a green screen.
Yeah, I
Did you
felt
know?
that a few times. I mean, for the most part, the CG was amazing, especially in Rivendell. As always, Rivendell looks beautiful. But I do agree, like, a lot of the scenes with the orcs, I know a lot of people are complaining because all of the orcs in this movie are CG instead of human actors like they were in The Lord of the Rings, which, I mean, I feel neutrally about. Like, yeah, I do miss, all of, like, the really human things that orcs would do in Lord of the Rings that just kind of made them more real. But on the other hand, I mean, it's a lot easier. They had so many more orcs at once on one part of the screen in this movie, so it would have been impossible to just get all these actors to cooperate and do everything like that, and just get all of the amazing footage they got the way they did it. At times, I did feel like it was a little fake, though, and I think that that's something they need to work on, especially random parts. This isn't necessarily with CG, but like when Thorin takes just a random oak branch that was lying around with the trees, and when they get picked up by the eagles, he just found it and it was there, and I was like, what is going on? Does he carry this on him? Does he just find these places and use them? I didn't really understand what was going on.
I think that most of the time when you really noticed the CG was when it went from all CG scene to the actual actors.
Whenever the orcs on top of the wargs were shown, I thought they did a really good job with keeping the CG orcs true to the actor orcs. In Lord of the Rings, a lot of the orc actors had a ton of makeup on, and every orc's face was kind of distinct and gross in its own special, disgusting way, like a cancer-ridden snowflake. And they did a very good job of computer generating all the orcs to be different, instead of taking the probably tempting route of just generating one character model for the orc and slapping some armor on it and just putting a ton of them everywhere.
So what was your favorite part?
I liked when the elf rode in on the moose.
It wasn't a moose, it was an elk.
Was it really?
There was just an elk with a really nutso rat.
No, I'm disappointed now.
I really enjoyed Gollum.
Gollum looked incredible.
Yes, he did.
He really did, and one of the things I was talking to Chaz about last night, which is kind of sad, is unless he makes a cameo in the next few movies, this is the last time Lord of the Rings fans who have watched it from Fellowship of the Ring to Return of the King and then now The Hobbit will see him on screen. And, it's sad that, this character is theoretically dead to us now.
If only that could happen to Jar Jar. I think my favorite moment had to be when the dwarves sang the Song of the Misty Mountains.
I also really liked the whole scene with the Goblin King, and they worked in, the little, it's Glamdring the Foe Hammer! No! From the 70s Hobbit. It was fantastic.
Yeah, there were moments in that movie that were line for line with A, the book, and B, the animated Hobbit. And it was really great seeing how well they translated the source material. Because the 70s Hobbit, whether you like it or not, followed the book very closely in the parts that it left in. I mean, obviously, to cut that book down to an hour and 15 minutes, yes, they took a lot of material out, but they did a good job with translating what material they used very accurately. And I think Peter Jackson did the same thing. And I was worried. Obviously, the older Hobbit is very heavily musical. There's a song regularly, and that is directly from the book. Tolkien wrote a lot of songs into the books. And he did the same thing with The Lord of the Rings. Sam sings to Frodo sometimes, and that got left out of the trilogy entirely. So I was a little worried that they wouldn't end up having all of the songs in The Hobbit, but they actually got a lot of them, even if they didn't do the whole thing. Just about any time Tolkien wrote lyrics, they at least had the lyrics integrated into the dialogue.
I really agree. I actually like what they did with the movie, and I don't think they could have done it better in any way, because while I wasn't sitting there and watching a musical, which I didn't want to do, I wanted to watch Peter Jackson's infamous battle scenes, they did integrate it in there, and that's what I wanted them to do. And it was kind of just like a short-lived bar song where, they sang it for 30 seconds to a minute, and then it was done. So that way they worked it in there, made the fans happy, but at the same time didn't take all of the time just singing.
I think, all the songs were very natural.
Yeah, there was never a time that they dropped a song in, you were like, are people noticing this? What's going on? Certain musicals, people just start singing about their plots to kidnap someone, and all the random bystanders on the street just walk by like this happens on Tuesday. And I think they did a really good job with, like, those of you that have read the book or watched the animated version of The Hobbit would be familiar with the song That's What Bilbo Baggins Hates. It happened very organically. Bilbo was complaining and one of the dwarves kind of started singing and all of them jumped in and started pounding the table to get a beat and everything, and it really felt like something that, I mean, obviously they're drunk, but they pretty much drank everything in Bilbo's food place. Just felt like something that a bunch of rowdy drunken dwarves would do.
Ultimately, The Hobbit was a really good movie. It was about friendship and a journey, and we've got 2 more to go.
Yep, and you can, I don't know about expect, but we're all hoping to be able to get together and do the Midnights for the next 2 Hobbits and give you these poorly put together 3 a.m. movies. Well, 4 a.m. now.
The last thing I'd like to say was that I also did think it was a very good movie. I think they could have worked on the CG effects a little bit more, like we were talking about, how sometimes it felt a little fake. Other than that, though, the acting was glorious. All of the actors did astonishingly well. Bilbo's part, Gandalf's part. They focused a lot on Thorin and Balin, or Dwellin, I forget exactly which one it was, because they aren't really emphasized in the book and the cartoon. It's really just Thorin. But whichever of the two, they just took the show. It was amazing, and they totally immersed me in this world that they wanted to set up for the audience.
And I think it's important. Peter Jackson did an incredible job with getting all of the actors that we've seen before back in their parts. You know, we had the same Elrond, the same Galadriel, the same Saruman, obviously the same Gandalf. Frodo made an appearance. I mean, we had everybody all over the place. And it really would have taken you out of it a bit if, you know, Elrond is this completely different person. Obviously, it's possible to change actors without a problem. It's just nice that all of the actors were able to return and keep the continuity in line. And they had Rivendell, you know, basically the same. They used a lot of similar set pieces.
I also really liked that scene where they put you into the room where Narsil is with the statue holding it. That was really cool.
Alright guys, we hope you enjoyed this, and we are sorry for our lack of energy and comfy attire. You know, we wanted to get this to you as quickly as possible. It'll probably go up sometime in the morning. You'll be watching this after an editing process and some much needed sleep. Please feel free to drop your comments about what you thought about the movie, things you liked, things you didn't like, things you wanted improved, connections to the book or the other movie. Definitely like, comment, and subscribe. You can check out our blog at www.projectbetterdolphin.com. We'd love to hear from you there as well. You can follow. Support us. We're fantastic. We go to midnight movies and then make videos for you guys. So
we are pretty quality.
we really are.
Anyway, see you later, guys.
Bye.
Sleep.